In this section, you are going to practice on building and animating a 3D object. The purpose of this project is for you to get more practice on how to animate in 3D and be able to see how 3D objects can be created and animated. You will start by learning how to use the 3D space to create a 3D object. You will build a 3D cube with simple shape layers. You will start animating the cube using a null object, a simple animation just to get you started. The next step is adding more cubes and creating the animation using a null object, in addition to individual 3D layers animation. I have to admit, guys, that the challenge proposed is not so easy this time. You will need to use all what you learned about 3D until now. I found it very important that you figure out how the animation was built and create even a better one. Let's start with the concept of a 3D object and we'll move on to create and animate. Our project here is to create a 3D cube and animate it in 3D. Pretty interesting. We are going to use the null orbit, the camera, lots of animations. This project is very important for you to have a great understanding about the 3D animation in After Effects. It's not about me impressing you with great animation. It's about trying my best to teach you the technicalities and the views how to understand 3D in After Effects. Notice that we are still in Classic 3D. We did not move to the Cinema 4D or the Ray Trace 3D. We are going to create this cube in Classic 3D simply. A cube is formed of 6 sides. These are the front. This is the front, the back. You see the back, top, bottom, right, and left. Very easy. I'm going to use shape layers here and position the shape layers in 3D so they can form the cube. We are going to start with left and right. Notice this is the left and right sides. Then we're going to add the bottom and the top. You notice the bottom and the top. Then we are going to add the back. As you notice, this is the back. And we are going to add the last is the front. And then using the position, we will position them in a certain way where the anchor point will be in the middle of the composition. And then we are going to animate this cube in 3D. And we are going to replicate it. If you notice, we will have several cubes here. Now, the technicalities here are very easy. I will go slowly. I want you to grasp whatever happens in 3D in After Effects. In the next lecture, we'll jump in to start actually creating the cube. In this lecture, you will start your project and you will start by creating the cube. Then later on, we'll animate it and we'll create the fancy motion graphics. It will be nice if you follow along with me, and it will be quite a training for you. Open After Effects. We're starting from a blank document and go to the minimal workspace. You can reset the workspace, okay? Then come back to Window and check the project panel. So we have the project panel here. We want to see it. Let's start by creating the cube. I'll create the first composition. I will call it a 3D cube and 1. Now, the size, we can make the width 1000 and the height 1000. This is very practical because divided by 2 is 500. It's an easy number. Then let's make the frame rate 30 because we are doing motion graphics here. Our video will be 30 frames per second. We don't have a problem with 30 frames per second. And also half a second is 15, so it's quite easy. And let's make the duration 30 seconds. We click OK. Now, I want to work in 3D. So let's go to 2 views horizontal. I can see now the front view over here or the top view. Then I will switch to custom view 1 will do. Let's come to our composition and start creating the sides. I will use the shape layers and not solid layers. Shape layers are easy. I find them easier and actually you can manipulate them much more. So I will double click to create a square, a complete square, just the size of the composition. Let's look at the fill. The fill is okay. And let's reduce the opacity, for example, to 35% will do. And let's go to the stroke itself. And also reduce the opacity of the stroke, for example, to 80%. Later on, we can adjust. 10 pixels, this will do. And a color of your choice, guys. I chose this color. Feel free to choose other colors. So now you have the first side. Let's say we call it the left side. Okay, as simple as this. Now you need to put it in 3D and make it the left side of the cube. First in 3D, and then we open the position and Shift R for the rotation. It's gonna be on the left, so I'll click on the X-axis and move it to the left. To be very precise here, I will put the X position to 0. So notice it's aligned now on the left border of the composition. I need to rotate it on the Y-axis. Okay, so let's rotate it this way. We see minus 57, so obviously it has to be minus 90. Now notice what's happening here. Half of it is inside, half of it is outside. Don't worry about it, leave it like this. In 3D, it will appear completely, and the anchor point, by the way, will be in the center of the cube. Now that I have done left, I will create another shape layer. I will double click. Then let's say this is the right side. And let's make it 3D. And then we open the position and the rotation. The position we now want it on the left side, of course. Cool. Let's leave it here. Come look at the figures. The X is 968, so obviously it's going to be 1000. And now we need to rotate it. That's our rotation. No, it's the other side. Of course, you notice it's plus 58, so it has to be 90. Let's now deselect and create, for example, the bottom. I will double click to get the other rectangle. I will make it in 3D and of course call it bottom. Position, rotation, and now we want to take it to the bottom. Now you know how to do it very well. Maybe you are ahead of me, so it's gonna be 1000, and I want to rotate it on the X-axis. Okay, this way. Okay, so obviously it's gonna be minus 90. I can duplicate the bottom if you like, and then rename it top. So I didn't save much. I will take the position up and I will shift. It's up over here. It's getting into place. And let's say it's going to be 0. So notice now you have your cube over here. Notice you have the 4 sides. Okay, very nice. If you come over to the view here and use the camera tool, I press C and right click and zoom in. Okay, then with the left click, I will rotate. I can see the cube. I still have the back and the front to add. Let's deselect all. Select all our layers and scroll up. Let's double click and let's put it in 3D. If you press C for the camera tool, it's just halfway. Doesn't need any rotation. So I press P for position and take it backward. Here you are. Notice it has to be 500. Nothing magical. And this will be the back. For the front, just double click and then you put it in 3D, and of course you need to position it in front, so that's the front minus 500. So actually now you created your cube. Congratulations, guys. You can play with the colors, do what you want. These are just shape layers. Let's rename this one front. It's so easy, guys, just to understand how it works in 3D. If you use the camera tool on the view over here, here you are, you have your cube, and it's gonna look a bit weird for you if you take it in certain places. For example, try to fix your vision and try to imagine how cool it is. So now that we have created our 3D cube 1, of course we can duplicate it, have many others. In the next lecture, we are going to create our main composition and start animating. And welcome to the second part of the 3D project, the cube. Now, if for some reason in the previous lecture you didn't manage to create the cube, or you would like to have the same exact cube that I'm working on here, you can open the project file, 3D project, the cube start. You should be able to download it in the beginning of this section. Now here, in addition, we have a placeholder. Now we want to place our cube in the main composition that will become our video later on. So I will create a normal composition, normal size, of course. It's gonna be 1280 by 720, frame rate 30 and 30 seconds. I will call it Cube Animation. And then click OK. I will take the 3D cube and drop it inside the composition. Now I have two views here which I don't need anymore. I will close and go to one view and go to fit to 100%. The shortcut is Alt and / or Option / on the Mac. We put the cube in 3D and you notice it's very big. I press S and scale it down to, for example, 30%. I'll open rotation. If I rotate it on the y-axis, you notice it's totally flat. It is flat because this is a composition that is not in 3D yet. To make a comp in 3D and to bring in all the 3D layers and to view all the 3D work that you have done, you come to the switch over here, which is for comp layer, collapse, transformations. You switch it on, and here you are. If you rotate, it is in 3D. Notice also that the anchor point is totally in the middle of the cube. This did not happen by accident. Remember, in the 3D Cube 1, the way I created the cube, the front side is in front by 500, and the back side is in the back by 500 or so. Same for the sides. I did not move them. You know, they are halfway in, halfway out. If you notice, this is the flat area over here, and the anchor point was in the middle here. The back is 500 from the anchor point. So actually, if you can imagine it, the flat composition is in the middle of the cube. Hence, when you come and put it in 3D, the anchor point will be totally in the middle of the cube. This is a concept that somehow is confusing. Try to create some other shapes that are 3D and then bring them in, and try always to get the anchor point in their middle. That will be quite good. Now that we have our cube here, let's create some backgrounds. I'll create a background in a different way this time. I will right click, go to new, and add a solid layer. I'll make it 100% white. Then I will go to shape tool, to the ellipse shape tool, and then double click to create a mask. In the mask, I will feather it. Okay, as much as you like. Of course, this is very ugly, so I'll take the layer, put it under. To make it more beautiful, and even to have more control, I will create another solid layer, also 100% white. You can choose another color and just drop it behind. Then come to the second solid layer, press T for opacity, and reduce the opacity as much as you like. You notice the effect is pretty nice effect here. So I'm trying to create an environment where I think it's beautiful to work with the cube. So this background is pretty cool for now. You can create any other kind of background if you like. Let's reduce the size of the cube to 20% so we can animate it. And there are a couple of ways to animate it. You can create a null and start animating it, and then you can attach other cubes to the null. I will do that for now. I will right click, new and null object. I will rename the object cube controller. Put it in 3D and pick up the 3D cube to the cube controller. Now I will open the position and the rotation. Come to 4 seconds. We're gonna make it long so we can work slowly, then we reduce the time. I will keyframe the position, X and Y and Z rotation. This is the final state. I will come to the beginning here and simply use the position, just take it backward, okay, and then move it to this side. You notice this is a Bezier path. I will start, playing with the Bezier path. Here you are. Select this keyframe and try to catch the Bezier path. Now notice what happens. The node here, or the handle, is just behind the x-axis. I need to rotate it a bit somehow to be able to get it. Let's do like this, then come back, select it. Now I can catch it. I will use the selection tool and just do or draw a path here. I will zoom out, something like this, something beautiful like this. Of course, guys, feel free to draw any kind, but make sure that you are not animating the cube. You are animating the controller. Now let's play with the rotation. I'll just give it some rotation here, some rotation here, and some rotation here. Okay, I'm playing, but it will give you a nice animation. Notice what's happening. Very cool. Let's zoom at 100%. Play again. Not bad at all. It's working. and it comes as setters. I have a problem here, guys. I don't know which one is the front side here. It's not possible to guess. So I'm gonna go to the cube, double click, and this is the front. But I don't want this front. I want to put the placeholder. I like this one. Let's click and drag and drop it. So over here, I will right click and go to transform and fit to comp. Of course, I need to put it in 3D, but I need to bring it in front. So I press position and just scrub through. Okay, we need negative values. Of course, I'm gonna put it at -500. And then take the front, put it on top. Now you can pick them. And I will come to the front and remove the fill. Okay, no more fill. Let's go to cube animation. Did I do a good job? Well, actually, I don't know. Let me see. So I will start rotating here to get the front one in front. I rotated so much. Let's go the other way. Okay, that is working now. So we are just over here. Let's see our animation. Is it a beautiful animation? Well, it's not bad. It's pretty random, by the way, but it's doing the job for now. I will remove on the cube controller. I don't like to see it. Then stop at around 5 seconds. Press the space bar. And this is your first animation. It's a bit random, no problem. You can come and work on the motion path of the cube controller. And of course, you will want to select all your keyframes. Press F9 for the easy ease. Select position. Go to the graph editor and just make it just like this. Something just simple like this. Yes, so it takes more time to settle over here on the curve. Press F2. Not bad. Pretty cool. Now, in the previous lecture, we have created this simple animation using a cube controller, a null layer that we attach to the 3D Cube 1. Now, let's create more cubes and try to position them and try to animate them in a fashionable way, if you like. I will come to 3D Cube 1 now. I will duplicate it. But actually, I don't want to use it the way it is. You know, it has this face over here. I need to remove it, so I'll put it off. And the front now, I will return the fill, the same fill we had. Click OK. Let's go back to our cube animation here. And let's take the cube 2 and drop it under 3D Cube 1. Very easy. Of course, it's huge. I'm going to press S and make it only at 10%. Then I'll put it in 3D and collapse transformations. Let's go back to the last keyframe. We have the second cube just over here. I'll click on it and just drag it and just position it over here. The way you would like, you can do it. Now I want to put more cubes. So I will come to 3D Cube 2 and also duplicate it, another one and another one. So we'll have 3 cubes here. Now I can simply take the cube 3 and drop it in and start moving it just like this one. But I'm going to do something else. I will select cube 3 and in the comp also I will select the cube 2 and duplicate it. So I have another cube 2 here. Now I will click on the cube 3, press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag and drop it over cube 2. Now notice what happens. You have an identical one just over here. And of course you can position it the way you would like. I can also rotate it. Okay, let's make them, facing this side. That would be nicer. Okay. And let's bring now the fourth cube. We'll come to cube 3, Control D, duplicate it, select the cube 3 from the timeline, press Alt or Option on the Mac, click and drag and drop it on top. Now I have another cube 3. I will use the selection tool just to move it over here. Let's adjust them. Please feel free to come over and adjust them the way you would like. I will use the rotation tool here to rotate it a bit like this. So now let's select the 3 new cubes here and use the pick whip to pick with them to the cube controller. Let's try our animation. Okay, here you are. Now I guess we have a nice animation. Not bad, by the way. I didn't expect that because we have a lot of rotation on the cube controller. First of all, I don't want any movement that comes outside the composition. We are at the limit. So now that we have our controller controlling all the cubes, and we have a nice animation, we can start giving a certain animation for the cube themselves as children, if you remember. So I press P for position and keyframe the position. So that's where I want them at the end. Come to the beginning, just over here, and just move them around, as simple as this. Okay, I'm creating here a motion path, and we'll see how it's gonna work. Okay, notice the motion path. Let's come to the next keyframe. You notice that you have the motion path now. You can start playing with the motion path and giving it a secondary animation or another animation if you like. So this guy over here. Now I'm doing it a bit blindly, you know, guys. I need to catch the point over here. Okay, here I am. But nevertheless, you can do it more educated choice here, just making sure that, you know, they're doing very well. Now, the way I do that, when I want a random animation, I'll just scrap through here, okay? And notice what's not working. For example, here, okay, I don't like this. You know, so they're coming on top of each other. So the next thing to do is just change the motion path. Of course, it's going to affect all the animation. Let's zoom in at 100% and play. So not only you have an animation using the controller, but also you have an animation using the position for every single layer. Fine. Now this is cool. Let's make it more exciting now. Let's come to the next point. And for the 3 new cubes, we open the rotation. Okay. So I'm going to make this one a bit bigger. We can see the rotation. And keyframe X and Y and Z. Here you are for all of them because they were selected. Let's come to over here and just fiddle with the rotation. Let's give this guy 1 rotation here, this guy a bit more, and let's take this one negative, for example. Whatever you like. I'm being random because I want to show you the techniques, how it works, and not really the animation as, you know, a delicate animation. Something, you know, beautiful that you would like or you would like to show off with. Okay? After all, nobody is going to notice that you didn't do a meticulous job. Everybody is going to look at the animation and say, is it beautiful? So we've done this. Let's now play our animation sheet from here before we zoom in. Actually, we have something pretty nice. They're stopping all at the same time. If this is your goal, you're fine. If not, you can just move the rotation a bit in time, not much, a bit in time. And of course, you would like to easy ease them, and let's play. Cool, not bad. Let's play it now in real time. I will take this one down. Not bad, guys. So you notice it was pretty easy and pretty simple to add more cubes and to change even the faces of the cube. You could change 3D cube for the face and so on. Okay, guys, so now it's up to you. You need to come to After Effects and start creating the same system I have done, creating the cubes, moving them, and changing the rotation, changing the position, play with it, create a motion path for each cube, you know, make it much more beautiful. So here I'm giving you a lecture. I'm proposing to you, I'm trying to excite your imagination. And it's up to you now. Go to After Effects and create something awesome. This is your practice activity and challenge for this section. If you really want to become a 3D animator, mainly in After Effects, and use motion graphics at its best, this practice activity is very important for you. It will teach you how to think in 3D. So please, try to do this challenge. Do not skip it. Do not jump to the next lecture. Actually, it's pretty easy. You are going to use the cube that we have created in the previous lectures. And you want to position it and decide how it's going to be animated and what are you going to use. First, there is a camera, and then there is an orbital for the camera. So think about it, how it's going to work, how you position them, how you get this distance somehow equal, and stories like this. Please don't jump to the next lecture before you do or try to do this practice activity and challenge. I will see you in the next lecture, and I will give you the solution and few tips also to help you become a great animator. Let's start, guys, with the 3D project challenge. It's very easy, very simple. Don't worry about it. There are a few things I will show you, and actually you will use everything you have learned in the previous 2 sections about 3D. So let's start here. We have a 3D cube 1, And all I did is to change the front. I put a black background here, and the opacity is at 80. The front now doesn't have any fill. Let's start creating our animation. We need 4 cubes over here. So you have the choice. You can drop this 3D cube 1 inside the composition and replicate it 4 times. That will not allow you to change the size for every cube because it will be the same layer. But also you can replicate the 3D cube 1 3 times. That will make 4 of them. Then you can change all the size of each cube. And this is what I will do here just for practicality. So I press Ctrl D 3 times. Here you are. Then I have 4 cubes. Select them in the order 1 to 4 and drop them inside the composition. First, I'll make them in 3D. Then I will enable collapse transformations. Of course, I need to change the scale. I put it at 15%. That will do. If you really looked at the preview in the previous lecture, you will have noticed that this animation will require a camera orbit null. So I needed to put them in place, create the camera, and then create the orbit null. Let's start. I'll click on the first one, press Shift, and take it on this side, just over here. Okay, I'm gonna go down in resolution to half to make it faster. And then this guy, I'll just put it on the left over here, and the other one on top, and another one on bottom. I will add the camera. Here you are. I will select all of them, 12 up, right click over here and say new camera. You can choose any camera you like, but in preference it will be 35 or 50 millimeters. I will keep it at 50, that's cool. I will click OK to create the camera. Then you need to create the orbit null. So you right click, say camera, create orbit null. Here you are. So you have the camera orbit null. Let's open the orbit null now. I will open the rotation. Notice if you rotate on the Y here, it is rotating on the Y, but not exactly the animation that you want. And of course on the Z, it's rotating also. We don't want that. Even on the X is not what you want. But let's start noticing here what happens when you play with the X-axis. That could be pretty interesting, right? So let's put it over here, not 90. This is 90 because they come in front of each other. Let's say, for example, 88. Okay. Let's say, for example, a bit less, like, I don't know, 80. Okay. Now that's cool. Let's play with the Y and guarantee that we have a good animation. Not at all. It's not working, in fact. So I'll put it to 90 and go to the camera. Let's open the rotation of the camera or even the position and decide exactly. Maybe I'll play with the rotation. Not really, it's going away. I will use the position here. So I will lift the camera up or down. Okay, notice what's happening here. Fine. So now we can see the front and the back. So actually, it's not about knowing what to do. It's about trying slowly, meticulously, and getting the results that you want. This seems perfect, except that this guy is now the front face is on top. So my only choice here is to go back to the 4 cubes here, open the rotation, and decide which one I want to rotate. In fact, you can play with the orientation if you like. I will start with the Y. Okay, nope. I will use the X, yes. Okay, of course, it's going to be 90 degrees. So I have the faces facing the camera. So now we actually did everything, but there is something else I would like to show you here that is very important. I will turn down everything. If you look at the orbit null, let's open the rotation. And you notice that the distance is not so cool here. These are too near and these are too far. How to fix it? First of all, go back to 0. That is 0, enter. Let's zoom in or zoom out and select the one that is on top and just click and drag it up. I'll press Shift. So I'll put it outside the composition. Pretty interesting, right, guys? Okay. So I put it outside. So I'm trying to make this distance equal to this distance here. It's pretty good, by the way. Notice? Fine. So let's go back to 90 degrees now on the X rotation. And notice what happened. The distance here has become a bit better. I will zoom in at 100%. And then if you twirl, here you are. The distance now is much better. You can come back and fix it the way you would like. let's create our animation. So the first thing we want is to keyframe the Y, but let's not start at 0. Let's start at 15 degrees. Now we can see them, even 10 degrees, I think each will do. Yes. Then we go to 1 second. Let's zoom in here so we can see 1 second. We go to 1 second and then rotate them plus 90. So I'm not rotating 90, I'm rotating plus 90, meaning 10 plus 90, it will be 100. I'll keep it at this position, for example, at half second. So I'll go plus 15, that's half second, keyframe again, then plus 1, that will be 100, and then rotate it plus 90. Okay, guys? Then we repeat the same, plus 15, keyframe, stable position, plus 100, rotate plus 90, here you are, and then plus 15, we have a stable position, just a keyframe, then plus 100, and we rotate at plus 90. Notice now I have 1 full rotation and 10 degrees, meaning I went through the 360 degree or the full rotation. If you come back to the beginning and play, here you are, you have very nice animation, 1, 2, and they're coming up. So actually, if you notice, you have created your animation, it is not bad at all. So now, if you want this animation to continue to the end of the comp and it's somehow seamless, let's put the expression loop out. And we click out and let's play and see exactly what have you achieved. Pretty cool animation, right guys? Remember guys, that you can come over and start animating the camera. You can just play with it and decide, okay, how you want your cube to move. Notice what's happening here. If I animate the camera, it can move in a very nice way. Okay, so if you come over here, for example, and take the timeline indicator to the beginning, keyframe the position, and come after 2 seconds to start up with, and return this one, the value to 0, the way it was. Notice what kind of animation you have here. If you play, it will grow, and they're coming in. Okay, so your imagination is very welcome here, and you start playing and doing a lot of tricks. Thank you very much for listening to me for such a long time, and I hope you have benefited a lot. And I hope you will use this system, these methods, whatever you want to call them, and do great animations. I leave it to you, and I hope you have a lot of fun. See you in the next lecture.